Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. We do this every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. live. It's on video and audio and all kinds of other things throughout the week. You can catch it. I want to talk to you about Western civilization. Is it burning? Dennis Prager, you probably have heard of him, probably know of him, is a nationally syndicated radio talk show host and columnist. His latest book is entitled The Rational Bible, Genesis. It's a commentary on the book of Genesis. Dennis is founder of Prager University, and he may be contacted at dennisprager.com. The symbolism of the burning of Notre Dame Cathedral, the most renowned building in Western civilization, he says, the iconic symbol of Western civilization, is hard to miss. It is as if God himself wanted to warn us in the most unmistakable way that Western Christianity is burning, and with it, Western civilization. Every major Western and one major non-Western social and intellectual force has conspired to rid Europe of Christianity and the civilization it produced. Within the Western world, the French Enlightenment, the intellectual basis of the French Revolution and the modern West, sought to replace Christianity and religion in general with secularism rooted in reason. For them it is no God, no Bible, no Ten Commandments. None of that is necessary for morality or for meaning. Only reason and science is important, and it will replace both. The two final death blows to Christianity in Europe were the world wars. World War I ended most Westerners' belief in the nation state and the West. Christianity, already weakened by the Enlightenment, was further weakened by World War I. German Christians were killing millions of French and English Christians, and French and English Christians were killing millions of German Christians. So the argument and the sentiment against Christianity went. Then World War II saw even more death on the Christian continent, as well as the failure of Catholic and Protestant churches in Nazi Germany to offer even minimal resistance to the Nazis' Jew hatred. At the end of World War II, every internal Western intellectual doctrine was secular. God, the Bible, religion were regarded at best as innocuous nonsense and at worst as noxious nonsense. Meanwhile, Europeans brought a non-European ideology into Europe, an ideology that for more than 1,000 years sought to replace Christianity as the world's dominant religion. Europeans, believing in nothing distinctly Christian nor Western, and believing in the moral and intellectual nonsense known as multiculturalism, that's a doctrine which asserts that all cultures are morally equivalent, saw nothing problematic in bringing millions of Muslims into Europe. They had no idea that most of these people actually wanted to replace Christianity with their religion. They had no idea because in their ignorance and arrogance, they assumed that because they were secular multiculturalists, that everybody else was too, or at least would be once they lived in Europe. Of course, they were wrong. And as a result, the two dominant forces in Europe, secular leftism and Islamism, sought to end Christianity and the West. The left believes that protecting Western civilization is equivalent to protecting white supremacy. Now, none of this is producing a pretty picture. Generally speaking, Islam has not been nearly as kind, tolerant, open, medically nor scientifically innovative or intellectually curious as Western civilization. And yes, Nazism and communism were born in the West, but they too were anti-Western. Even without tens of millions of Muslims, post-Christian Europe has not produced a pretty picture. This was predicted in 1834, 100 years before Hitler's rise, by the great German poet Heinrich Heine, a secular Jew who later converted to Protestantism. He said the ticket of admission into European culture was Protestantism. He said it was Christianity, and that it is its greatest merit, but has somewhat been mitigated by the brutal German love of war, a love that failed to destroy the beauty. Should that subduing talisman, the cross, be shattered, the frenzied madness of the ancient warriors, that insane berserk rage of which Nordic bards have spoken and sung so often, will once more burst into flame. He suggests that this talisman, the cross, is fragile, and the day will come when it will collapse miserably. Then a play will be performed in Germany, which will make the French Revolution look like an innocent idol. European Christians persecuted European Jews, often brutally, but it took a post-Christian ideology, that of secular Nazism, to produce Auschwitz. Just as it took post-Christian communism to produce the Gulag. The Chinese Cultural Revolution and the Ukrainian and Cambodian genocides, similarly. Moreover, Nazism and communism aside, the left's belief that secular reason can replace God in the Bible turns out to be completely wrong. The alleged citadels of secular reason, the universities, are the most irrational and morally confused institutions in the West. I don't know if a worker accident or a radical Muslim set fire to Notre Dame Cathedral. In terms of what the fire represented, it doesn't matter much. What matters is the omen. Europe is burning, just as Notre Dame was. As an aside, we just saw more churches set on fire this weekend. Here's an academic observer offering a condensed overview of the last 70 to 90 years of human history, events that unfold slowly and to several generations, purposely constructing a new global fabric without most people even noticing the differences. This is the work of an eternal mastermind determined to destroy that which God hath wrought. Western civilization is under attack at just about every level. I doubt many could have predicted what our educational system would be putting out these days. Academics are among some of the most anti-Western, anti-American thinkers and radical doers the world has ever seen. We are pitting families against families, communities against communities, institutions against institutions, cultures against cultures. The great melting pot has become a boiling cauldron of hate speech and brutality. We've been encouraged to favor differences where we once sought unity. We've introduced degrading ideas and images to our children under the heading of entertainment. Our conversations have become lurid and vulgar as a matter of course. The idea of economy and thrift have been replaced by entitlement. Our mothers and sisters have been conditioned to believe that it is safe to be alone in an anonymous and free society merely because they have that right. And it is almost impossible to find a TV show or a movie that does not offend our sensibilities, or a song for that matter. This week we learned that our beloved Kate Smith is now persona non grata. Why? Well, she was found to have sung a racist song. You see, 21st century Americans are offended at what people in the 1920s and 1930s accepted as endearing and inclusive. Well, the argument is they didn't have a choice. But the fact is, that was then, and this is now. And now, every word you speak is an opportunity for someone to be offended. In this case, offended for people who loved her for reaching out to them. People who were not as integrated nor as arrogant as they are today and appreciated her efforts to include. And by the way, she didn't write the lyrics and probably had no say as to whether or not she would sing them. People making money by appealing to the masses did that. It is doubtful the producers deliberately sought to alienate their audience either. I'm not making excuses for that generation. I'm just trying to provide context. For without context, we have no understanding. What is going on is the result of what has gone on. And what has gone on has been motivated largely by the enemy of all that's right, good, and holy. Strap yourself in. It's going to be a bumpy ride.